would like to take this opportunity to welcome the esteemed panel and just give an introduction of. We have with us Mr. Delphique, who is Group Marketing Manager, Surgical Solutions, next India. He is an Executive Management Program pass out from India background in strategic marketing. He has done his MBA in marketing from SIBM Suri. He has 11+ years of experience across various functions in the healthcare industry, wherein he started from sales, moved on to market research, acquired additional skills in business development, and new product planning. Later on, he got promoted in the role of Strategy and Program Generation Office at MSD India. Then he took up challenging roles of sales and marketing at Baxter, starting from infection management and then later on taking over parental nutrition and oncology businesses. The journey in coding has been equally exciting, and he started up in Jan 2013 to lead EMID business from a marketing perspective, and now he is spearheading whole surgical solutions business portfolio with a strong team of product managers for covering India's subcontinent. He is making it a preferred partner to Bombay Municipal Corporation and Army leading hospitals in India. He has additional responsibility of training and newly recruited representatives on marketing aspects of specialty care products. Sir, we welcome you on the panel. We also have with us Professor Meeta Dasgupta. She has a mix of industry and academic experience. Her corporate experience is in an area of IT consultancy and corporate finance with IBM Business Consulting. At IBM, her project engagements have been in the area of implementing Oracle financial applications for manufacturing industries and service industries. Her doctorate in the area of strategic management from Management Oracle Institute of India complements her graduation from Sriram College of Commerce, Delhi University, and post-graduation from XIMB. Her doctoral work in the area of technology, strategy, and technological innovation involve multiple case studies in the power distribution sector. She has research publications in various national and international journals and has presented papers in conferences and doctoral colloquiums. Her research interests are in the area of innovation management and strategies, diffusion of innovation, knowledge management, leading to innovation, corporate business strategy, and competitiveness of firms. Her areas of interest for teaching include corporate business strategy and competitiveness of firms, international business, strategic planning and implementation, and specialized courses on innovation, strategic alliances, and joint ventures. Now, we welcome you to the panel. We also have with us Nitin Chawla, Associate Principal, ZS Associate. He is an MBA from Stern School of Business, New York University, and he is a BTech graduate from NIT Kurukshetra. He has expertise in sales, marketing, and commercial operations. He has a track record of implementing change to deliver new revenue channels, higher growth rates, and at reduced costs. Nitin's innovational management style, focus on developing solutions, and passion for continuous improvement has enabled him to set up and lead large global business units. His specialties are market assessment, global operating model and organization design, brand planning, and operations. He is a champion of Australia region, responsible for designing and implementing the business plan to grow CS presence in the region. He is driving growth through combination of developing new solutions, increasing brand presence, and building new team capabilities, and achieve 3x scale up within a year of starting operations. He advises clients on strategic marketing and commercial excellence. Sir, we welcome you. Now I call the team appointed to the stage to present their findings. We have 3 teams doing the research, each having 3 people in the team, where each team has taken up 1 country in Southeast Asia, 3 countries being Philippines, Thailand, and Malaysia. We will start off with Malaysia.
Good morning everyone. We will be presenting the pharma landscape of Malaysia. To start off, this will be the flow of presentation. We will start off with a country overview and then give a brief about the healthcare expenditure and healthcare infrastructure in Malaysia. Then we will move to the recent market trends in the industry and the regulatory framework in Malaysia. Then we will discuss the distribution channels and what are the forecasts for the pharmaceutical industry and the medical devices industry in Malaysia. So to start off with the general country overview, Malaysia is a country in Southeast Asia and shares borders with Indonesia, Vietnam and Singapore. The population of the country is 30 million and the total land mass is 127,350 square miles. It is separated into 2 parts by South China Sea and the number of states are 13. The literacy rate is 93% and the GDP is $300 billion US. Around 70% of the population lives in urban areas, while 30% of the population lives in rural areas. So this is a brief of the key economic indicators. The GDP of Malaysia has grown at a pace of around 5 to 6%, and the same growth rate is expected to continue in the future. The annual household income of Malaysia is $19,436. The Malaysia is classified as a middle income country, which is still an emerging economy. So we can see that there has been continuous shift from low income groups to high income groups. Healthcare expenditure. So healthcare expenditure is private as well as public in Malaysia, and around 53% of expenditure is public and the rest is from private. This is lower than the high income countries where the 62% of expenditure is funded by public sector. If we see the growth in the public in the healthcare expenditure, it has grown at a CAGR of 7.8% for the last few years. And the thing to note here is that the out-of-pocket expenditure is around 80% of the total private expenditure. So there is still a large scope for insurance players in this industry, as a large amount of expenditure is funded by out-of-pocket. The total value of the expenditure, just move on to the total value of the expenditure was $12,692 million, out of which $6,769 was public spending. So this is the distribution of the healthcare facilities in Malaysia, and these are the primary healthcare facilities. So primary healthcare facilities denote the facilities that are the first point of contact between the patient and the healthcare system. So what we have done is we have divided it into states, and we have found out which are the states that are to be focused in case a certain company wants to enter Malaysian pharmaceutical markets. So as we can see that Johor, Perak and Pahang are the top 3 states which have the highest number of health clinics, and the health clinic population ratio has been given. In terms of density, Pahang has the highest density with 4,750 health clinics for health clinic to population ratio. In terms of private primary healthcare facilities, as expected, Selangor and Kuala Lumpur have the highest number of clinics. We can see that most primary healthcare is offered in the private sector in the urban areas, while the public healthcare is mainly concentrated in the rural areas. These are the secondary healthcare facilities which primarily denote the hospitals and the large tertiary care centers. So we can see that around 50% of the beds are concentrated in the regions of Perak, Kuala Lumpur and Selangor and Johor, and whereas the private healthcare facilities are concerned, mostly they are located in Selangor and Kuala Lumpur. So these 3-4 states have emerged as the key things for focusing your pharmaceutical market. One thing to note here is that though the number of private hospitals are much larger, that is 209, they are generally smaller. So the total number of beds is only 13,667, while public hospitals are 132 in number, still they have around 34,000 beds. So the public hospitals are much larger as compared to private hospitals. These are the number of physicians. So Malaysia has always faced a crunch of physicians, especially in the public sector. If we see the growth rate from 2008 to 2013, the provider-patient ratio has doubled almost for doctors, but still Malaysia faces a lot of crunch in terms of numbers of doctors if we compare it with other countries, and this is expected to continue till 2020. So there is vast amount of brain drain also. Plus government has imposed some policies like for the next 3 years one has to work in the public sector before a doctor can join a private sector. So those kind of policies have been boosting the number of physicians in the public sector, but still there is a huge shortage if we compare it with other countries. So these are some of the key hospitals in the public sector as well as the private sector, the largest hospitals in the country. As I said that the larger hospitals are the public hospitals, while private hospitals are smaller entities. Medical tourism is highly prevalent in Asia and in Malaysia, and thus we can see that a lot of these have specialties in weight loss surgery, cosmetic surgery. So Malaysia has been emerging as a hub for medical tourism, especially in the private hospital center. So these are the recent market trends.
Okay, so essentially moving on to the demographics, as stated, 70% of population lives in urban areas and the other 30% lives in rural areas. This is the second most urbanized country when compared to other Southeast Asian countries. The first one being Singapore.
If you look at the demographic indicators, and in that case, you can see that the youth population has been deteriorating with time, and the pensionable population has been increasing. It was somewhere around 4.6% from 5, and it is expected to increase from to 10.4% from 30. This is because since the dependent population is increasing and the pensionable population is increasing, and the median age has also increased from 20.3 to 20.3. Therefore, it is expected the healthcare expenditure is going to increase in the time to come. Now we have divided the three specialties which are present in Malaysia. These are namely oncology, nephrology, and urology. In case of oncology, there are around 58 hospitals, out of which 31 are in public sector, while 27 are in private sector. There are 67 oncologists in total in case of Malaysia, and there are 230 oncology trained nurses. So this amounts to around 2.3 oncologists per million population, with the population of 28.3 as in 2011. When compared with other countries such as Australia, they have around 10 oncologists per million. And if you look into a general figure that is required for countries like Malaysia, there is a need of 12 oncologists per million population. If that is to be reached, then in that case, Malaysia will require 60 oncologists by 2015, which is certainly next to impossible with the current pace that is going on. Nephrology division, 42 full-fledged specialists, and in urology division, there are around 95 registered urologists with 3.2 urologists per million population. So, if you look into the recent geographical trends, then in that case, primarily these are public and private health sectors. About 93% of the urban population have a hospital in less than 5 km radius range, and 67% population in rural areas have a hospital in the less than 5 km range. And since all these clusters are primarily located in 6 geographical regions which have specialized hospitals available. Now, these are the recent market trends with respect to diseases and disability. In case of disease, there are 3 classifications that have been done. First one is primarily with respect to the notifiable diseases, which are tuberculosis, food poisoning, foot and mouth disease, and HIV/AIDS, which are prevalent in Malaysia. And if you look at the infectious disease, in that case, the waterborne disease, vector-borne disease, and the water contact disease are prevalent in case of Malaysia. The leading disease in terms of DLY. DLY is related to disability adjusted life risk. So, heart disease, mental illness, cerebral disease, road traffic injuries, and cancers are the prevalent diseases or the major injuries which cause accidents. And then if you look at the indicator, immunization which has happened, there has been an improvement in immunization compared to level 2007. So from 90% to 99%, essentially it is reaching on to about 100% in case of Malaysia. And if you look at the death primarily has been due to non-communicable diseases. Moving on to disability, around 4,45,000 individuals are registered as disabled in case of Malaysia as a product, but this cannot really be considered as the correct figure because registration is voluntary. So a lot of people who might have not registered but still fall into the same category. The steps which have been taken by the government are Persons with Disability Act has been incorporated in 2008, and apart from that, there are also National Policy for Personal Disability and National Plan of Actions which have been provided not to provide them this social welfare. If you look at the workforce, as discussed, there is a crunch in case of Malaysia. They have around 0.9 patients per 1,000 population compared to 2.2 in developed nations. They have around 2.45 registered nurses as compared to an average of 4.4 in case of developed nations, and 0.1 for dentists as compared to 0.7 here. This ratio is smaller as compared to the countries such as Thailand and Philippines, which are also going to be discussed. Looking on to the attitude, economic pressures, empowerment, and the role of ICT in case of Malaysia. The attitude, if you look into, people do not have much knowledge about the health, they don't really go much as far as the regular checkups are concerned. That is not that much into picture in case of Malaysia. Ethnic background, religion, education level tend to play an important role while as far as the characteristics are concerned. Public expectation on the whole is on a rising trend. Reason being the fact is Malaysia is emerging out as a very developed, it's like emerging towards a developed state because of which this expenditure towards the health is also increasing. If you look at the economic pressures, in that case, the hospital entities are kind of in a fix because of the implementation of GST. And the main reasons why healthcare costs is increasing is primarily because of the inflation and multiple rate sources and rentals as well. Healthcare policy, that is NKK, National Key Economic Indicator area, is there. So essentially what happens is that in this particular plan, healthcare has been focused on Malaysia. Then as far as patient empowerment is concerned, patient information, patient choice and access, patient's rights and public participation by involvement of community groups is focused by the Malaysian government. ICT tends to play an important role because by introduction of telephone consultation services, the waiting time has been reduced in case of Malaysian hospitals. Moving on to the budgetary allocation, 4.5% of the total GDP is the total healthcare expenditure, expected to rise by 2020. If you look at the top conditions for hospitalization, then in that case, as far as disease is concerned, respiratory system accounts for about 8% but on the whole, pregnancy and childbirth, because of which hospitalization happens in case of Malaysia. Regulatory framework, in case of IP laws, this is Patent Act 1983, which came to force in 1986. Then Malaysia is part of WTO in line with the requirement of the agreement. And apart from that, it also has it's a member of Paris Convention and it also signs the Patent Cooperation Treaty. On the whole, if you look into the legal provisions, there is a limited manufacturing and sale of generic drugs, so there is a licensing which is required for the same. There is also compulsory license on the certain set of pharmaceuticals, which are considered to be essential. Then apart from that, the Ministry of Health introduced a big content to curb the counterfeit drugs. So, Malaysia on the world has a problem of counterfeit drugs. A lot of counterfeit drugs are there in Malaysia, primarily because of the strict policies that are there in place. If you look into the regulatory framework, the drug approval process is audited by the Drug Control Authority. There are different categories and they are processing fee and laboratory fee for the same. So, traditional product, pharmaceutical, new chemical entities, veterinary and cosmetic products are being the chief entities. And then as far as the application is concerned, you could either have an innovative product, a generic product, or it could be an OTC or traditional medicine. So the data which is required while applying for these products are different. So essentially there are 4 classes of data: administrative data, data which is to support the quality, data to support safety, and product efficacy. So based on that, innovative, for example, requires only part 1 to 4, while generic requires only part 1 to 2. Moving on to the application process, there is initiation of review that happens when new chemical entity or different kind of products are initially reviewed according to a queue system. Apart from that, there is a stop clock which starts once this payment for the application has been confirmed, and it is going to stop once a regulatory decision has been taken by the DCP. Validity period is 5 years for a specified registration. If you do the time frame review, that is given for full evaluation and average evaluation. Looking at the registration fees for manufacturing license, import license, and wholesaler license. These are the registration fees. It's highest in case of manufacturing license. Pricing mechanism, out-of-pocket spending in Malaysia is around 25%, private insurance covers 50%, while the rest is 60% covered by the government. So there is this price essential drug which is assigned by the Ministry of Health. If you look into the regulations for import and export, then in that case, the pharma products are generally non-dutiable and their subject to duties are also reduced rate. Most of the imported total consumption is accounted for by majority of the imported drugs. So 70% of the total consumption is due to the imported drugs. So these are the major stakeholders as far as the distribution channel is concerned. Primarily the pharmacies are the major channel via which the end user gets the drugs, post which it's the doctors, government hospitals and private hospitals. On the whole, if you look into the health facilities, they purchase the pharmaceutical products. One is through the company, the other one is through central tender process, which is happening in Malaysia, the one is a local purchasing.
Now coming to the COPE options. COPE options basically tell us that how much is being paid by the insurance companies and how much is being by the patient. Now Malaysia, as of now, does not have any national social health insurance scheme, but they are trying to come up with a scheme that is called as One Care for One Malaysian, and in that health plan. So it is notable, this can be noted that 50% of the population has private insurance and 70% of the health insurance expenditure is on the hospital care. Coming to the number of pharmacists, the population of pharmacists has increased, but you can see the number, the ratio, which is currently around 1:2,000, around 3,000, is quite less compared to the WHO standards. It requires it to be around 1:2,000. The following process we can notice that for including the drugs, the Ministry of Health, they have a blue book which lists the drugs which are approved for all the use in emergency institutions, and the use of this formula does not include the private hospitals and teaching hospitals. By the end of 2005, there were 1 kilometer preparation listed. Malaysian market is valued over 3 billion, and it is quite interesting to note that Malaysians spend around $400 per person on healthcare as compared to 14 Thailand. You can see the cost of healthcare is quite low in Malaysia as compared to other countries like US is for heart bypass the cost is around $130. For Malaysia it's 9,000, Singapore 18,000. Coming to medical tourism, it is quite a second largest foreign country, and the number of patients and number of revenue has been increasing because of the low healthcare cost of Malaysians. And also we can see that the number of tourists from Indonesia are quite high as compared to other countries because the cost in Indonesia is quite high as compared to Malaysia. There are some local companies in Malaysia. Now, from the industry forecast, the drug market is has the highest market share, but it is expected the market is going to decrease because of the focus on government's focus on generics, and we can see the current market share was around 40.3%, which is down from 40.7%. Now by 2018, it is expected to that market share reduce to 37.7% by the GMI reports. Coming to the generic market, the market has seen a double-digit growth over the years, and now the government is more focused on generics, so it is expected the market share will increase over the years. Coming to the OTC drug market, now in Malaysia there is no difference between the OTC drug market and the prescription drug market because doctors can prescribe both the OTC medicines, and so the difference is blurred. Now it has been expected that the share of the market is expected to record a growth of 6.4% in the OTC market, and the prescription drug market is going to grow at double-digit growth rate. This is basically trend from theoretical basis, where the market is expected to reach around 1.6 trillion by 2015.
In the interest of time, we'll move on to the next presentation because there are two other groups which are present and we have tight schedules. Now I invite Delphique's team to come over to present their
Level 2 are non-departmentalized hospitals and level 3 are departmentalized hospitals. And level 4 hospitals are which provide specialty care. The numbers have been given over there. The NCR and the Scotland region account for over 70% hospitals which are private. To give you an idea in terms of which are how many are private, how many are this. Now, Philippines, because of the geography, there are certain places which are not addressable. The localities are considered as geographically isolated where the delivery of services is difficult. The positive trend in the healthcare market can be attributed to the rise in terms of generics. Now, this is something which is analogous to India itself because a number of patented drugs in the US, which had a 17-year patent period, is now expiring. So, between 2013 and 2017, a lot of the growth is going to be through generics. There is increased expenditure from the local government units. In terms of health workers, the Filipino nurses are the primary focus because they are in demand in the market. And Philippines is basically a net exporter of health workers. Now, in terms of public attitude and expectations, the problem is that a lot of people prefer folk dealers who use herbs, massage oils, and kind of Ayurvedic kind of methods of treatment. Poverty and religious beliefs have fueled the development of alternative forms of medicines, which is a lacuna which pharmaceutical companies may have to address. As I already talked about, Philippines is a major exporter of health workers, yet some rural and places face critical shortages. The budget allocation is given over here for our reference. Now, pneumonia ranks was the fourth largest cause of death in the previous census before 2000, and it's also one of the second largest cause of morbidity. However, so the effect of diseases like dengue have been curtailed to a large extent, and it has gone down from 1.2% to around 0.27% during the last census. The other chronic diseases have been mentioned over here, which are diabetes and pulmonary diseases primarily. However, the interesting thing in all of them is that the growth has been having the cause of death due to less than 10% of the household population. We'll talk about the IP laws.
Yeah, thanks. I'll quickly go over the IP laws and the distribution network in Philippines. So, if you look at the IP laws, the type of patents are patentable. So, these are in general patents, not only specific to pharmaceuticals. So, these are patentable inventions in the design utility model. So, the patent duration is 20 years, the term of utility model 7 years, industrial design 5 years, so on and so forth. Over here we also look at what are the current pharmaceutical therapeutic areas where patents are being pursued. So we have neurological, anti-cancer, cardiovascular, anti-infective, metabolic, so on and so forth. Moving on, we will quickly look at the application procedure or the registration for a new product. So the applicant goes to the Public Assistance Information and Compliance section. So over there for inquirers or for the checklist of requirements, you are given a presentation of OR or attachment slip and a dossier. And for the assessment of documents or application for registration, you are given an issuance of a routing slip which they refer to as an RSN number. From there, you come to the accounting and billing. From there to the cashier, and from the cashier, you go back to the Public Assistance Information and Compliance section. From that section, you come to the product service division, wherein your certificate of product or a letter of denial or your notice of dependency gets issued. It goes to the office of the director. Finally, encoding, scanning, and imaging is done, and it goes back to the applicant either as a reject or an approve. Moving on, we will be looking at, so this gives a brief overview of the pricing mechanism. So medicines are, so what we have found out is that amongst the Southeast Asian countries, so whatever we are studying over here, the medicines in Philippines cost the most. So one of the reasons are prices of originator brand medicine sold, so it has come out to be almost 15 times greater than the reference price. In many cases, medicine costs more from the government hospital pharmacies than from the private drugstore. So what we have found out is that there is a cumulative markup of imported medicine from 89.5% to 273%. So we have traced, so if you see over here stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, so we have traced from manufacturers selling landed cost, wholesalers resale price, how that markup is traversing across the different stakeholders. So at every stage you will see a certain percentage of markup happening. Moving on. So these are the different regulations that are currently imposed, regulations or laws, so as to say, that are currently imposed. So the Drug Price Reference Index and the Universally Accessible Cheaper Quality Medicine Act. So the draft price regulation index, what it tries to do is that until now there was no formal linking between the listing of Philippines national formulary and the actual draft prices. So what this particular regulation tries to do is form a certain link between these two. The Universally Accessible Cheaper Quality Medicine Act, now this came in 2008. The main rationale behind this act was that local generic medicine manufacturers could test and produce and register their generic versions of patented design so that the generics could be sold immediately upon expiration of patents. So this was not there before. On top of this, we have, so Philippines has import control, pharmacovigilance and medicines advertising and promotion. So they have regulations from in terms of import. So you cannot import anything and everything, any kind of drug from outside. Similarly for medicines advertising also, they have certain regulations. Coming to the role of the government, now if you see that over here we have again mentioned that high prices of drugs in Philippines are used as an argument for greater government role in the drug sector, though effective regulation through effective regulation in the drug market. So mainly the government is playing its role in terms of the laws or the regulations that it formulates. So we have already talked about the UHC. We have already talked about the Cheaper Medicine Act. So through that Cheaper Medicine Act, what the government is trying to do is, in a span of 2011 to 2016, they are trying to achieve a universal health care so that maximum population of Philippines can be reached through their PhilHealth program, which is their insurance program. Then comes the SERA Medicines Access Framework. So this is nothing but the safety and efficacy. So these are certain guidelines that need to be followed for the pharmaceutical industry. Then we have certain healthcare acts which was formulated at different times. So the Generics Act, Parallel Importation Program Act, Cheaper Medicines Act, so on and so forth. Coming to the regulatory agencies that exist, so we have listed down 4 over here. So primary among them is the Food and Drug Administration, who actually takes care of all the approvals and stuff. So we have Bureau of Facilities and Services. They ensure the sustainability of health facilities, compliance with regulatory standards, so on and so forth. The National Center for Pharmaceutical Access Management to improve the supply side access, so on and so forth. This gives a brief of the distribution channel. So we have 4 categories. We have the MNC drug trader, we have the MNC drug importer, we have the local drug trader and the local drug manufacturer. So essentially the MNC drug trader and MNC drug importer does their manufacturing through toll manufacturers who are basically contract manufacturers for your MNCs. And for the local drug traders, for the local drug traders, we have the finished products are being imported and the drug manufacture is being run locally and then it is accordingly distributed. Zuelink over here is the biggest distributor in Philippines. So this gives a brief snapshot of how the landscape looks like. So if you see that drugstore has the maximum percentage and out of them chain has the maximum percentage. So in Philippines there is a company called Mercury who has the largest and the most elaborate chain of drugstores. So this is a brief snapshot of the procurement process and the tendering process. And this is a brief snapshot again of the formulating process. So in a great majority of cases, the drugs should be formulated to single compounds. Generally, new drugs should be introduced only if they offered distinct advantages previously selected drugs. So this is again a brief snapshot of the distributor landscape in Philippines. And finally, we would be ending this particular section through the number of pharmacists. So Deepak would take you forward to the pharmaceutical market.
Yeah, now I would like to just take the last 2 parts of the presentation which will cover the pharmaceutical market and the medical devices market. So we can see that for the last 3 years the growth has been single digit for the Philippines pharmaceutical market. The reason has been the government's policy of Cheaper Medicine Act. So basically it has increased the share of generics in the market. So due to this, the Philippines market has seen single digit growth. And we can see the overall market ecosystem wherein we, as we discussed, that the role of toll manufacturer is very important in the Philippines market.
we can see that various global brands are there present in the Philippines market, out of which GSK, Pfizer and Biofilms are the major ones. And we can see that only 2 of these companies are having their manufacturing operations in the country. Rest all are operating in the trader and the importer section. These are the local companies which are operating, and many of them are manufacturing, but out of these, Unilabs is the one which is dominating the market share right now. We can see that over the years, the share of the foreign players has been decreasing in the overall Philippines pharmaceutical market. It reduced from 65% to 61% over the course of 5 years. Yeah, if you compare the Philippines pharmaceutical market with overall ASEAN countries, we can see that it is somewhere in the middle. It is lesser than Indonesia and Thailand, but it is more than Singapore and Malaysia in terms of market cap. And in terms of
the severe concept time will be ending this particular year. We have the next team and this is
So our countries, Thailand, market landscape. So we get to the recommendations. So this is the agenda. We have covered the similar points and the recommendation. So what we had the thing is like in this particular market in the ASEAN region, this country basically Thailand is one of the largest markets. But there are a lot of issues regarding IP laws. There are because IP protection, patent protection is very weak in this particular country. Because a lot of compulsory drug licensing is very present. So it's pretty similar to Indian pharma market, but the compulsory drug licensing encompasses more drugs in Thailand compared to some of the other ASEAN nations and also India including. And also for what's happening is contrary to other markets, where generics is actually losing ground. They are actually not allowing giving a lot of patent, they're allowing patent to a lot of other companies, specialty drugs, especially like we found GSK and other companies gaining ground here in this particular market. Generics on the other hand, out of the total value, are actually losing ground in terms of market value. We also, what we found is that the cost of generics is lower, but this is, but still, the specialty drugs have a lot of scope in this particular market because almost 40% of the market is composed by Bangkok alone, 40 to 50% of the market value, and just 20% by volume. These companies, these foreign MNCs are focusing primarily on this particular market, and that is why we propose that yes, still it's quite an attractive market as a whole for any pharma company or a healthcare company. So this is from a generic company. So this is for the patented drugs. This is a compulsory drug licensing, similar drugs in the ASEAN nation. But the ASEAN nation the licensing is that they have a basic framework. In addition to that, every country is allowed to build up on the framework. So what would happen is Thailand is a very conservative nation. They have achieved almost 98% insurance cover, and they've also achieved almost 97% healthcare cover. So obviously this is achieved at a cost, and the cost of that is obviously drug licensing and very low cost. So basically what we have to say is market affluence is increasing. Northeastern part like Pattaya and other areas, we have a lot of medical tourism, especially healthcare has a lot of scope in this particular market. So here we suggest, especially healthcare has a lot of scope. Right now the market is valued at around $1.1 billion, but it's expected to grow on 30 years CAGR in the coming 10-15 years. So healthcare and both pharma both are expected to grow in the coming years, and we expect this to be a good market. As for medtech, this is what I was talking about medtech. Till now, the MOPH has been procuring most of the equipment. For the government also now they started a proper tendering process even for the medtech as a bigger devices also. The result of this is that companies are actually quoting higher prices as their actual prices, and the imports is increasing. They contribute more than 95% of the value. The high end of the market is totally 100% dominated by foreign MNCs only. There are all the low end domestic manufacturers focus only on the basic medtech products like gloves, syringes, etc. So, and there has been no move from the Thai government to actually encourage it as well. So, what this is for the pharma MNC manufacturer, be it Baxter, Cycle, or it could be COVID and all. So, companies like this, we still see a lot of opportunities in this particular market. We have done a proper. So just run through the presentation. So this is the geographical diversity that we were mentioning. They are divided into 6 different regions. They have 32 cities and they have provinces that they call as Muang. And next, going into the expectancy indicators again, it's an aging country and the life expectancy is increasing significantly, largely due to increased penetration of healthcare. Then we come to the development indicators. Again, this is one of the more developed countries in the ASEAN nations, apart from Singapore and Malaysia. As a result of which, this has had a ripple impact on the lifestyle of the people also. So I just come to the household expenditure. Contrary to some of the other ASEAN nations, here actually discretionary spending is quite high, largely because subsidizing from the government. Their actually medical spending is not very high. Still, it's high, but compared to countries like India, it's still higher. And purchasing power, we just come here, this is basically again telling that purchasing power of Thais is very high compared to some of the other ASEAN nations. The average income is also per capita income, both purchasing parity assisted and nominal is also very high. It's almost 1.5 times Cambodia, Laos, but it's lower than Singapore and Malaysia. So this is healthcare expenditure. Now they have run into deficit basically. They have a Thai government. Largely because of their extensive coverage program, UHS, which Sunil just briefly mentioned. So now they are scaling down their healthcare expenditure, they have achieved their penetration more or less. Now they are looking at improving their services rather than actually penetration. So this is just a breakup. OPs, but despite this, there is an issue here. OP still continues to exist. The people are paying from their pockets, even though insurance coverage is high. So this is just a structure of how different levels we have. It's right from village level to the metropolitan level. Positive we just have to move. And this is like the healthcare doctors. There are roughly around 36,000 physicians here. Specialists will not able to find specific info about specialists. So this gives a breakup by this is from the MOPH reporting. So this gives a breakup. The ratio is still again it's quite a positive ratio. It's higher even than Malaysia and Singapore. So these are some of the hospital beds in the distribution across the countries for percentage of beds in the hospitals. And these are the top 5 hospitals. What we found is all the top 5 hospitals in Thailand are all located in Bangkok. So there is a very big skew here. So this is just the administration industry. So these are some of the common diseases and disabilities.
I would like to call the panel onto the dais. I invite Mr. Nitin Chawla to share his views on the topic as well as our conversation.
To congratulate the team and of course all of you for the great event and the extensive work that you've all done. We've already seen the level of detail and it's very impressive. It's very thorough, a lot of exhaustive, a lot of detail which is already included in the work, which is not easy to find because the nuances of what is available in the healthcare system is complex. How it impacts the commercialization of these products, how do you actually go about then developing products, marketing products, sales effectiveness. A lot of it depends on how you now synthesis a lot of all of this material into actionable items. So I think this provides an excellent platform for a lot of companies, including our own ZS as well as the clients that we serve, to then take this to the next stage and then see how do we synthesize and push functions. So from my point of view, I definitely like this work to continue. It's a good platform, it's an excellent base, and congratulations to both of you.
Now I'd like to invite Professor Meeta Gupta to share his views.
Well, what I can say is that good work done. There's no doubt a lot of work which has been put in by the teams, and I think so all of us know that companies, when they are planning to enter new markets, it's the problem of information asymmetry that they face. Not having complete information about the market. And most of the decisions are based on the kind of information that they have. So with respect to this, I feel so that the teams have done a good work. And the problem that everyone faces, and also the companies, is that there is a lot of information, lot of data available in front of you. But how to make sense of that data, how to collate it, and how to put it in a format which you can make an intelligent sense of it. So from that point of view, I think so that teams have done a commendable job. And like he said that this provides a very good platform for companies actually to base a lot of their strategic decisions on the data points that the teams have presented, and many of their strategic decisions can be based on the kind of data which has been presented, because it's not only one aspect of data that has been presented here by the teams, but it is various nuances and nitty-gritties which have been presented, and companies can base a lot of their decisions on this. And also understand that which are the areas in which they are going to face a bottleneck, and what can be some of the factors that can be used. Because as we know, in the pharmaceutical industry, the kind of networks that you are able to establish with the doctors, with the healthcare providers, plays a very important role. And the teams have brought out, the mix of public-private hospitals which are there. So pharma companies, if they plan to use this data and to enter into these emerging markets, they can, base a lot of their decisions on this, that the kind of weightage which the public-private, network has over there. So once again, congratulations, and good luck to all of you, so that you can take it forward and take it as a good platform to advise also to companies. Basically that will be a contribution from your side, if you can advise to different companies that how they can make sense of this data and base their strategic decisions on that. So good work.
Encouraging words. I'm sure the teams will take back the and improve upon their work. Now I invite Sir Rajat Tandon to share his views based on his experience on the field, which will help us a lot.
Congratulations. The work which we showed today was just exceptional. The way we could see numbers here, the way we could see the granularity of data you guys presented, in spite of not being from the industry actually, by reading through it, we could see that there was a lot of secondary information available. But the way it was put forward, I would say it was excellent. So I myself presented a lot of times from room number 14 to my professors. So I could really see that the way you presented, the structure you made, actually made sense to anybody who wants to enter these respective markets. All three markets are very different. Philippines is at a low, whereas Malaysia stands at middle, and Thailand is a very high. So all these markets are very different. But the granularity which you brought in, whether you talk about nursing home segments, you talk about that yes, pharmacy is number one, or I saw a couple of slides talking on urology, nephrology. So you guys broke down everything into each and every aspect as possible, whether it was the technical view, or the government process, or in the formulary area. So these are areas which any pharmaceutical devices company wants to know what's happening in these markets. Like what happens in India? The only market which companies have not touched till now, which they are going for, is the tier 2 segment. You all listen to them. But when a company wants to decide they want to enter the tier 2 segment, first of all is they will talk to the people like me within the same company. What do you think? And we would have our own processes or thinking towards it. But until unless we have the right secondary information put into the right perspective in the right manner, we don't know are we doing right, because this is what we have in our mind, we have learned through a number of years. But the way, the information which comes from people like you in this form is actually highly useful. I would urge you to continue this. This was actually very enlightening and very, very good. Wish you all the best. Congratulations on this.
And last but not the least, I should say we are grateful to CS also for providing us the opportunity to work on this project and for the guidance that has been provided to the teams throughout. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
I would like to thank the esteemed panel for raising the attention. Anyone of you have any questions or we can have a session? Any from the participants who want to? So,
I'd like to, just in case you're curious on why we are so interested in a project like this as DS, and then how we want to use this going forward. Just like Jen said, there's a lot of interest in expanding to Southeast Asian countries. The Australasia region is the next frontier for growth for many of the MNCs. But how to enter, where to enter, which segments, these are complex decisions that needs a lot of granular thinking. Otherwise you can make an investment which costs you millions of dollars and look very silly in your organization. So that's the next step. So the perspective was very much that, how to help, do market entry, take commercial decisions. Commercial decisions, the meaning is, what kind of sales force should I set up? How large should the sales force be? What type of roles should there be in the sales force? Should they target the hospitals? Should they go talk to the pharmacists? Should they talk to the doctors? Which type of doctors? Are they doctors sitting in a hospital? Do they have an influence on deciding a brand? Hospitals sitting in a private clinic, what kind of influence map do they have? What are their criteria of brand selection? What types of patients come to the doctors? Which patient gets what type of medicine? What can they afford? What can they not afford? What type of diseases are out there? Therefore, what's the clarity of your brands? Therefore, the value. You see, there's a whole lot of decisions which company has to take as they decide to commercialize their products. And that's where this platform becomes very powerful in synthesis as well as conjecture of what this means, what the implications are for the companies. So that's the next.
thank you sir for those words. I'm sure DS will find it useful and will continue the engagement to the next day also and encourage students to take up similar projects.
Good luck.